Hello, everyone. I hope that you had a good week. I hope that you've had a chance to get out and enjoy this beautiful weather, and that you've had a chance just to go out and play and do lots of fun things. I don't know if all of you remember, but last year during VBS we talked about Moses. And Moses was someone who was asked by God to do a very difficult, if not impossible thing. Namely, he was asked to go to Pharaoh and demand that Pharaoh release the people of Israel so that they could be free to follow where God would lead them. It was a really difficult thing that God asked of Moses, and Moses was pretty certain that he couldn't do it. He was pretty certain that he was the wrong man for the job, but God always said that he would stand with Moses no matter what, and that in fact he would send Aaron with him as well so that he'd have support to do what he needed to do. And of course we know that Moses was successful. With God's help, they did indeed free the people of Israel, and that those people many years after that point would enter into the promised land and begin to live in the promised country that God had promised them back all the way when Abraham was still on earth. And this is something that Moses was able to accomplish because he trusted in God. We will be asked to do difficult things, if not things that feel really just impossible throughout our lives as well. Times when we have to stand up for what is right, times when we have to do what's right even when it's not popular, times when what we believe isn't going to be very popular. These are going to be hard times for us, hard moments when we think, well, maybe it's just easier if I don't say anything, or don't do that, or don't say I believe in this. Because you know what, it's difficult when people pick on us or torment us for being different or standing up for what is right. And it's easier just to maybe let it go. But we are called to do otherwise. We are called to go out and stand up for what is right, to do what's right, and to be people of God, and to follow God, even if sometimes to do so is unpopular. We're asked to be that, to be children of God, disciples of Christ by God, and we're not asked to do that on our own. That's something we should understand. Just like in Moses' story, God does promise to be with us too. We're never going to be forsaken and alone as we stand up and try and do what's right in this world and be the kind of people that God would have us be. People that would give hope to the world, and people who would give God's love to the world. God will never let us do that by ourselves, because God knows that if that were the case, we would never be able to do it. We really can only do it when we know God is with us, and that God gives us strength and hope and God's peace as we do so. Because standing up for what is right is very important, but it's never easy. Sometimes it can feel even impossible. But just like with Moses, God is with us too. And it is not impossible. The disciples faced the same thing, and like with Moses, they too knew God's presence with them. So we can trust in that. When we do what is right, God will always be beside us. And so I'm going to read now chapter 8 of the Tales of Peter. Remember that at the end of last chapter, the unicorns which Peter had helped convince come out of the cave had left along with Noah, and now he was left alone with the hummingbird. Peter just stared at the little bird. He didn't know what to say. What he had been shown in the caves was difficult to put into words. Why did you bring me here? To help you, of course. Help me? How? I have never been more afraid than I have been over the last however long I've been gone. And why did I have to find the unicorns? You're much smaller than I am. Why didn't you go talk to them? It was not my quest. It was meant for you, to help you. But how has it helped? Now I just feel exhausted and sad. The hummingbird was silent for a moment. I am not the right one to answer these questions. I am a guide. I can support you. I can even help you find the answers within yourself. But I cannot answer those questions for you. Excuse me 1 second. Yeesh. Sorry about that. Alright, yes. I can even help you find the answers within yourself. But I cannot answer those questions for you. You need to find another to do that. Great. Another quest. Who am I looking for this time? Moses? Elijah? Jesus? Will they look like a toadstool or a giant flying scorpion? Peter realized he was quite angry with the hummingbird. He wasn't really sure if that anger had anything to do with the little creature or not. You need to find 3 things: a coin, a sheep, and a young man. Then you need to bring all 3 to the shepherd. Peter glared at the hummingbird. Where, pray tell, will I find these things? We are in the middle of nowhere. A thought crossed Peter's mind. He broke into a sweat. We don't have to take the bridge across the worlds to somewhere else, do we? The hummingbird seemed to shake its head. If it can be said a hummingbird can do such a thing. How else will you get home? Yes, we do have to take the bridge again, but the trip will be shorter. Peter grunted. Oh, goody. At least I haven't eaten for a while. The unicorns gave me water to drink that made me feel full, as if I'd eaten a steak meal or something. I think it might be wearing off, but I will wait until after the fun ride of death before I think of eating again. Good idea, said the hummingbird. Last time was really gross. They set off, but rather than traveling across the plains, they journeyed through the hills. For hours they walked. Peter almost regretted saying that he would eat after they arrived on the new world, but the idea of eating evaporated when he remembered what awaited him. He knew they must be getting close when instead of walking around a hill, they climbed to the very top. Of course, it had to be the tallest hill of the bunch. Panting and sweating, Peter stumbled up to the hummingbird, trying to catch his breath. Are you ready? It asked after a few moments. Sure, said Peter. Let's get this over with. Like the first time, Peter was swallowed up by a technicolor swirl of color. But unlike last time, where it felt as if he was falling, he felt like he was being shot upwards on a fast elevator. Either that or sucked up a vacuum cleaner, Peter thought. He was just growing accustomed to the feeling when suddenly it was over. The lights were gone, and Peter found himself standing on a crowded, busy street in what looked like some ancient Middle Eastern town. Where are we? He asked. Jerusalem, 2,000 years or so before you were born. Peter's eyes widened. The dust and heat were almost suffocating. Of course, it was at that moment his stomach chose to remind him he had just traveled via the world bridge. He erupted in a series of noisy, dry heaves that had everyone on the street avoiding him as if he had the plague. When he was finished, he looked over at the hummingbird. Gross, was all that it said. Peter rolled his eyes. Why am I here? After everything he had experienced, being 2,000 years in the past didn't seem that hard to contemplate. For the first item on your list. The coin? Yes. Where do I find it? There. The hummingbird motioned with its beak. An old woman, looking frantic, had stepped out of a door a few feet from where they were standing. She peered hastily one way and then the next, and then went back inside. You have to help her find the coin. Peter shook his head. Of course he had to help an ancient Israelite woman find her coin. That made perfect sense. Peter stalked to the door of the house and knocked a little harder than perhaps he had meant to. The old woman appeared. Yeah. What do you want? I'm here to help you find your coin. How do you know I was missing my coin? She eyed his strange clothes suspiciously. I was told about it by a friend. Who? John? Oh, John! Good boy, young John. Well then, come in, come in. There wasn't much inn to go into. Her house was tiny, dusty, and hot. I've been looking everywhere for 2 days, but my eyesight is horrible. I may have found it 4 times already and just not realized it. Peter nodded. He went to work, searching through the tiny hovel. After about 15 minutes, he found it in the corner, underneath a basket. When he presented it to the old lady, she was ecstatic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I thought I was losing my mind. Here, and she pressed the coin into his hand. But I thought you needed it. I hate losing things. I thought I was going crazy, but I don't really need it. I just wanted to make sure no one had taken it, or I had lost it. You keep it, boy. I thank you for helping me. Thanks, said Peter. The old lady smiled and had him sit down for a glass of warm water, a dried husk of stale bread, and a fig, which Peter enjoyed a great deal. Some time later, Peter emerged to find the hummingbird waiting outside the old woman's door. "One down," it said. I hope you enjoyed that, and we will see you next week.